Well, it is really hard to imagine, in fact, a busier time at Queen's Park right now with the threat of U.S. tariffs coming in place next week at some point as Donald Trump becomes the next president. This, of course, out of that potential economic firestorm. So the province now going ahead with the $200 rebate checks for almost all Ontarians. So for more on this, we're thankful to have a few minutes this morning with Ontario's Finance Minister, Peter Bethlenfalvy. Minister, good to see you this morning.
Great to be with you again. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So the news this morning, the checks are sort of getting into the mail, so they're going to be in people's hands soon. Have you moved up the timeline at all, perhaps in response to potential tariffs that are coming in, or is this always the planned schedule?
It's always the plan. We announced it in October, even before the U.S. election, before tariffs, because first off, our revenues were higher. It's the taxpayers' money, and many people are, struggling to pay the bills. And so we thought it was very important to put some money, their money, taxpayers' money, back at a time when we got financial strength. And when people families could use a few extra dollars.
What is the actual cost to the bottom line of the Ontario Treasury of these checks?
It's about $3 billion. And I would just point out that when we announced it in October to come out in January and early February, thereafter, Standard & Poor's, a credit rating agency, upgraded us. First upgrade since 2001. So we've been reducing taxes and fees, building Ontario, the economy and infrastructure, and being fiscally responsible because our economy is growing, and we're giving it back to taxpayers.
Okay, I'm sure taxpayers will appreciate a little bit of extra cash. You talk about being in a time and a period of economic strength. We're also going into this period of uncertainty with President Donald Trump being inaugurated coming up on Monday. And we've heard the Premier this week talk about maybe 500,000 jobs could be lost in this province. And then he's talking about maybe needing to spend tens of billions of dollars to perhaps shore up our economy. The $3 billion here, did you ever reconsider that, maybe to sort of help put that aside for the sort of rainy day that is sort of almost imminent next week?
No, independent of Trump's election and these tariffs, and we'll see what happens next week. We're dealing with the situation now. We've been helping people put more money back in their pockets for a couple of years. We cut the gas tax, we took tolls off, we lowered fares, we took the license plate stickers and gave that back. So we've been doing this for some time, recognizing that many people are hurting in Ontario. And my job as finance minister is to make sure that we have fiscal strength. We've had 2 credit rating upgrades. We've got the lowest debt to GDP in over a decade. And my job is to protect people and jobs and businesses. So we'll see what happens, but we're going to be there to protect them.
What keeps you up at night right now in terms of what could happen next week?
Well, as finance minister, lots of things always keep me up, even on a sunny, clear day. But what we have to continue to do is to grow our economy, boost the economy, support our workers, because that's how you pay for world-class healthcare and education. And we've been able to invest record amounts in healthcare and education. We've been able to grow jobs. We've grown over 200,000 new jobs in the last 12 months. That's a big accomplishment. That means people are putting food on the table. And we've got so much more to do. So energy, critical minerals, deal with the Trump tariffs, and just keep boosting this economy.
And on the Trump tariffs, Minister, I mean, that really is the top issue on so many people's minds this week. We just saw all the premiers and prime minister meeting this week. There is also this new council that's been struck by the prime minister of a range of experts. Are you a part of these conversations? Is the premier part of these conversations in terms of taking a look at, what the cross-border issues may be? Are you heavily involved at all?
Absolutely, 100%. So the Premier is the chair of the Council of the Federation. That means he represents all the premiers for a year. I do the same with the Finance Minister. So we're working together. I think it's so critical to work with a unified voice across Canada. I think it's really important that we work together. And I would say, Canadians are resilient. And I would, for example, buy Canadian. Let's this is going to rally. And you had Tony Chapman on earlier. Put the maple leaf on there. I'm a proud Canadian. Even when I was down in New York, I was president of the Canadian Society of New York. This is a great country. I know we will get through this. But when we're together, unified, we're stronger.
Yeah, and we heard the Premier, it sort of echoed what Premier Doug Ford had said a lot during the pandemic in terms of Buy Ontario and sort of, kind of like really rally the local market here to sort of help support everybody. I want to circle back, though, to these checks, the $3 billion. That's not an insignificant amount of money. As you said, it's the taxpayers' money. But we hear the Premier this week talking about maybe needing a mandate to spend billions of dollars to perhaps shore up the economy if these tariffs go through and could potentially be devastating. So on the one hand, you need a mandate to spend those billions, but not the billions millions on the checks that are coming out in the coming days. How do you justify the difference there?
Well, we've got the greatest financial strength that we've had in decades. Ontario now has the lowest borrowing costs in the country. We have, as I said, we've reduced our debt relative to the economy, lowest interest expense to revenue since the 1980s. So we come from a position of strength. But fundamentally, our job is to protect Ontarians, their jobs, the businesses, the families, and we'll use all tools at our disposal. All options are on the table.
But then why would you need a mandate if you're in a position of strength and have a strong majority government?
Well, it's their money. And, where we've got a path to balance, if we're going to respond to what may happen, I think it's fair to say, hey, what are we going to do with your money? And we did that. We ran on my budget in 2022. I'm not going to speculate on an election. I'm not going to, but I know that the Premier has been out there talking about that. My job is to just continue to focus on ways, regardless of what happens, to make sure that we can boost this economy and support businesses and workers.
We had Flavio Volpe from the Auto Parts Manufacturers Association, who I'm sure you know very well, Minister, sitting right where you are yesterday, saying that he's at about an 8 out of 10 in terms of concern level right now because, of course, Donald Trump has taken aim at Ontario's auto sector. Do you share that same 8 out of 10 level of concern? Because we know how integrated the auto pact is and how beneficial it's been, but Trump really seems to be coming after it.
Well, we have to take these things extremely seriously. There's no question about it. But just remember, we have a lot of strength. So obviously, the auto sector is a champion within our economy. We're going to support them. We have critical minerals. We have an energy strength here in Ontario. We're the largest market for U.S. goods for 28 states. So we're a huge market. Lots of jobs in the U.S. We have so many strengths. I kind of look at this situation that actually this will kind of ignite the Canadian identity and Canadian patriotism, and we have so much going for us. So I know there's threats. We take these very seriously, but I also look at what are the opportunities.
Yeah.
And we have a lot to be able to lever into that.
Well, we certainly saw the message on the Premier's hat earlier this week, Canada Not for Sale. Minister Bethlenfalvy, thanks for your time this morning. Good to see you.
Likewise,
Thanks
Nick.
for the time.